Hey, it's your friendly neighborhood potato witch. Welcome to the show. Jade Cocoon is a monster taming RPG that was released for the PlayStation in late 1998 in Japan and mid-1999 in North America, and was a collaborative effort with Studio Ghibli's animator Kondo Katsuya, which explains the amazing art. It also had re-releases for the PS3's PlayStation Network and the PlayStation Portable, but only in Japan, further limiting its potential audience in the West. It's an often overlooked RPG, but I adore it, and that is why I want to bring you the fantastic story of Jade Cocoon right now. Let's start with the creation myth that sets up the world that this game exists in.
Elrond, god of the forest, the source of all life. He released his servants, the divine spirits, unto the lands. He spoke, I am that which is giving you life. For a time, they brought life and happiness to the forest. Soon, the forest was visited by fate. The divine spirits created a beast in their own image. Elrond warned, that is the beast of knowledge, and it will someday bring temptation upon you. Thou shalt not associate with it. The divine spirits so promised, and gave birth to the beast of their own image. Such was man's beginning. Time passed, and the forest was again visited by fate. A divine spirit was seduced by a beast of knowledge, and so the promise to Elrond was broken. The spirit lost its divine power, and by the child of man and spirit, it was gained. This new power threatened Elrond, and so was divided into light and darkness.
So, in a nutshell, God created smaller gods who created humans. But God said, hey, those things are problems, so don't associate with them. The smaller gods promised, but then one day one of them fell for a human, broke the promise, and screwed everything up. The spirit that fell in love with a human lost its divine power, which passed to its half-human, half-little god offspring. Only that was weird, and kind of created a sort of new power that threatened God. Probably because it was a whole new kind of creature. Anyway, God decided to deal with the problem by splitting that power up into the separate powers of light and darkness. With me so far? Good, let's press on. We begin the story under a starry sky in the village of Cyrus, where the protagonist, Levant, is playing some music for his fiancée Mabu. They're interrupted by Louis, an obnoxious village kid showing up for his shift on the watchtower where Levant and Mabu are talking. The two head home to rest up for the village festival the next day. At home, Levant's mother Fio talks about how that night is a special one, a night to honor their ancestors, but Levant's father, Riquet, was also a cocoon master, like Levant himself soon will be, and he went missing in the Divine Forest some years back. Is this relevant to the plot? Maybe. That night, Levant dreams about chasing his friends through the forest when suddenly he runs into a weird guy who mentions his father, using the title of the Lion of Peril. Upon recognizing Levant as the Lion of Peril's son, the weird guy just straight up attacks him with a powerful dragon creature that knocks Levant out. If you fall unconscious in a dream, do you have another dream? The next morning, Mabu is waiting for Levant at the watchtower when suddenly, from over the mountains, comes a fierce swarm of huge insects. These are the Onibubu, the locusts of the apocalypse. The village was protected by a divine barrier, but the Onibubu broke through it and descended upon Cyrus. The village elders discuss the matter, wondering if the day of judgment has come at last. High Priestess Garai believes that it was a person who helped the Onibubu break the barrier, as they couldn't have done it on their own. Regardless, once the Onibubu flew away, many of the villagers were found to be stuck in a deep sleep and can't wake up, thanks to a powder shed by the insects. This, Garai says, is exactly what happened to the ancient empire of Gehena, which sounds decidedly ominous and says that nothing can wake the villagers from their unnatural sleep. Jabara, one of the village elders, really dislikes Garai and her information, as well as her heritage as a Nagi woman. The Nagi are a cursed wandering tribe who possess magic related to the minions of the forest, and Jabara accuses Garai of not caring about the villagers and not bothering to lift a finger to save them. Jabara, I guess, would have preferred a human sacrifice ritual to prevent harm from befalling Cyrus, which Garai says is foolish and ignorant. The village head calms the two women down and asks Garai if there's really no way to save everyone. Garai explains that the powder from the Onibubu makes people's souls detach from their bodies and wander through a dream world. The only possible hope is the legendary Calabash herb, which might be found growing deep in the forest. However, the only ones who can safely come and go from the forest, taming the fierce minions within, is a Cocoon Master. So, it's time for Levant to meet his destiny and become that Cocoon Master. Becoming a Cocoon Master requires a sacred union between said Cocoon Master and a Nagi woman. Cocoon Masters capture minions in silk cocoons, which are then purified by Nagi magic so that the minions inside become loyal to the Cocoon Master who captured them. However, this magic leaves painful infections and scars known as cursed brandings all over the Nagi woman's body, and a Cocoon Master growing in strength often requires hurting his wife, a brutal trade for strength and safety. Cocoon Masters themselves are also often feared and looked down upon by many despite the work that they do in taming the forest and keeping the people safe. Mabu is of Nagi heritage and is prepared to do her duty and marry Levant. Levant, as the son of a Cocoon Master, is prepared to do his duty and marry Mabu. By their powers combined, they just might save the village. That night, Levant once again dreams of that weird guy who taunts him with promises of death and leaving a grieving wife behind when he's killed in the forest. He sets another minion on Levant, but this time Levant defeats it with ease. Of course, then the weird dream man sends out his cool dragon minion again, and Levant is defeated once more. Levant's dream fades, and he awakens in the morning. His first day as a Cocoon Master awaits. Before he leaves for his journey into the forest, Garai tells him to seek out a man named Chorus, another Cocoon Master who lives beyond the forest Beetle Gate. Chorus will help Levant grow strong enough to survive while seeking the Calabash herb that will hopefully save the villagers from their unnatural slumber. Before leaving, Mabu gives Levant the gift of a ring, one given to her by a Nagi chieftain when she was born. It means a lot to her, and in light of everything that's happening, she wants Levant to have it, which is honestly kinda sweet. Like, these two kids obviously like each other, but life has thrown them together in a really weird way that's made them suddenly have to refocus their relationship to each other, and then just, oh, gotta get on saving the world now. Okay, goodbye husband, I'll stay here and wait for you to come back so I can get horrible painful scars all over me in the name of duty. Have fun in the forest! Before Levant heads out on his quest, it's worth taking a moment to discuss one of the many myths that appear in Jade Cocoon. This one involves the fall of the kingdom of Gehena, which Garai spoke a little bit about earlier. See, back in the day there was a king named Karis, not Chorus, who had a son named Menek. One day Menek chanced upon a weeping maiden in the wood, a woman named Alcana, who could talk to bugs and trees. Weird flex, but okay. Menek started visiting Alcana a lot, and rumors sprung up that he was bewitched. To prove herself, Alcana spun King Karis some beautiful cloth made from the silk of fairy cocoons. The king was really taken by this cloth, and so he sent out his soldiers into the forest so they could bring back all the fairy cocoons, whereupon the fairies, still inside their comfy cocoons, were boiled alive so Karis could get his silk. I guess he didn't have Alcana's ability to get the silk without killing what was inside. Side note, this is actually a part of how silk is processed, so think about that the next time you wear a silk shirt. Anyway, Menek begged his dad to stop being such a cruel jerk, and for his efforts, Menek was thrown in a dungeon. When Alcana heard about this, she was so overcome with grief that she tried to do something very unsafe for YouTube. As she drowned, Elrim took pity on her and granted her a final wish. Alcana, cursing the greed and foolishness of humanity, poured her heart out to Elrim, saying that the light of her life was dead and now she's lost all hope of anything anyway. Elrim proclaimed that humanity wouldn't be able to live in harmony with the forest. Also from then on, if light was swallowed up by darkness, Elrim would return everything to the void and essentially destroy all of existence. And from that moment, demons started appearing in the forest, the minions that Cocoon Masters tame, which all stem from the greed that lurks in humanity and that Karis gave himself over to. That was also the moment when Gehena was destroyed, attacked by the same Onibubu that would, many years from then, also swarm on the village of Cyrus. Is this just some cool flavor text that isn't really relevant? Actually, no, it's a nice bit of foreshadowing for an overarching theme of the game, which I'll talk about later. It also gives us some context for what the Onibubu are, what the monsters that Levant tames are, and why everyone in the game keeps talking about the downfall of Gehena. They're seeing a bit of their own plight in an ancient legend. Anyway, with story time over, Levant begins his journey into the forest beyond the Beetle Gate, and immediately meets Chorus on the other side. Oh, that was easy. Chorus demands that Levant prove he's really a Cocoon Master and not some poacher by playing his flute. Music is how Cocoon Masters subdue minions, after all. When Levant is done showing off and Chorus recognizes Levant's right to be there, Levant explains that the Onibubu attacked the village and asks about the calabash herb. Rather than actually telling Levant anything, Chorus says that if Levant can reach Chorus's home deep in the forest, then he'll help out. Gee, thanks. The actual reason for this is that Chorus promised to keep an eye on Cyrus after Riquettes disappeared, but only agreed to do so until Levant became a cocoon master himself and thus could take over keeping Cyrus safe. It's not just about Chorus being a jerk or something. Levant traverses the forest and eventually finds Chorus's home, and Chorus now within it. Chorus says he took the time to research the calabash herb, but sadly found nothing of use. He did, however, find an old legend about a birdman named Kikinak, who has a powder that can wake sleeping people. Kikinak lives in another section of the forest, and Chorus is only guessing about whether or not that powder might be useful, but it's the only information anyone has right now. Levant heads back to Cyrus to let Garai know what he found out. Garai is disappointed that Chorus didn't have the herb or know exactly where it can be found, but the birdman, Kikinak? Garai knows about him. Turns out Kikinak is the same spirit who was cursed by the god Elrim because he fell in love with a human. There are definitely old legends about how Kikinak has a mysterious powder that can awaken people, even from a deep unnatural slumber. So now Levant has to go find a creature that's emblematic of everything you're not supposed to do and ask it for a favor. Time for another trek through another part of the forest. Levant finds a weirdly snowy section of an otherwise tropical forest, and there rests a bag of sleep spores. As soon as he picks them up, Kikinak the birdman swoops down from the sky and challenges Levant to a duel. Not because he really wants to test Levant's strength, but because he's a vain, boastful person who wants to show off. Unfortunately for Kikinak, Levant emerges victorious. Kikinak isn't angry or upset, but rather impressed, and declares that he and Levant are now friends. He explains that he got his anti-sleep powders from his other friend Yamu, who lives in yet another section of the forest. This section only has the sleep spores that Levant picked up, which, well, just put things to sleep. But Yamu really likes rare and valuable things, so if Levant has anything like that to trade, he might be able to make a deal with Yamu and get some calabash powder to wake up the villagers. Back in Cyrus, Levant reports his latest findings to Garai. Garai puts a few clues together and figures out that Yamu is actually a spirit originally named Mamon. Mamon was the divine spirit of knowledge, not to be confused with the beasts of knowledge, which is another term for humans. It was Mamon who granted humanity with knowledge in the first place. But just like how Kikinak was a divine spirit who fell to lust, Mamon was consumed by material greed and thus cursed by Elrim to have a hideous form and also to guard the divine tree at the center of the forest, keeping it safe from humanity and its harmful, greedy, foolish ways. Elrim is big with the cursing, I guess. Before Levant can head back into the forest to search for Yamu, Mabu asks to speak with him privately. The two head up to their favorite spot on the watchtower. She's feeling the pressure of her role as a Nagi bride, having to marry Levant so suddenly, and now it's like the only time she sees him feels like it's all work and no play, so to speak. Her duty to him, purifying all the cocoons he brings back from the forest, is painful and leaves scars all over her body, and while both Garai and Levant's mother Fio try to bond with her and bring her comfort, she can't understand their attitude of self-sacrifice. She wishes everything could be different, that they weren't forced into these roles that bring them both strife. She's struggling, and she feels like she's struggling alone. But there's nothing Levant can do to alleviate that suffering. He's the only cocoon master in the village. He's the only one who stands a chance of venturing into the forest safely and bringing back the calabash, and to do that, he needs Mabu's help. Help which only hurts her. It's a vicious cycle. But for now, Levant has a job to do, so he goes back into the forest once more, this time to seek out Yamu. What he finds, though, is Yami, a little brown chestnut-looking creature who says she's hungry, so Levant gives her a berry that he picked up along his journey. She likes it, and tells Levant that Yamu is her big brother. A step in the right direction, I guess. So he keeps looking. And eventually he finds. Yamu, or Totoyamu as he's now known, tries to get Levant to leave the forest, but then he spies a very shiny, pretty ring. The ring that Mabu gave Levant on their wedding day. He asks for it in exchange for some calabash herbs, and what choice does Levant really have but to hand it over? Totoyamu makes good on his offer, but says that given the Onibubu affected a whole village and not just a few people, Levant will need more calabash. He knows a place where a lot of it grows, but he won't just tell Levant for free. He demands more treasure in exchange, because of course he does. Once again, Levant heads all the way back to Cyrus to tell Garai about Totoyamu's offer. She figured he'd try to pull a stunt like that, but giving up something suitably valuable isn't a decision a single person can make. This needs to be handled by the village elders at the Hall of Judgment. Unsurprisingly, Jabara isn't on board. She has another plan. She figures that even acquiring a bunch of Calabas wouldn't be more than a temporary solution to the problem, especially if the Onibubu return. She thinks a better plan would be to basically attack the Divine Tree, which is an incarnation of Elrim that lies in a hidden part of the forest, and then imprison it with a special talisman. That way, humans would no longer have anything to fear from the forest at all, and could basically gain control over it. According to her, humanity is already on the path to destruction, and you can't change the past, so if humanity is already screwed, then the only way to salvation is to basically take down God. Jabara, your plans are the absolute worst. Unfortunately, since Cyrus doesn't actually have a treasure to trade with Totoyamu, her terrible plan is the only one they have, and so Levant is ordered to go along with it. Heck, maybe humanity is naturally so destructive that Jabara's plan just makes sense. Unsurprisingly, Garai is not happy about this.
How foolish she is.
But even she can't go against what the village chief ordered, and so she reluctantly agrees to not interfere. Levant is given a belt to trade with Totoyamu, so he'll show the way to the Divine Tree, where, remember, Jabara just assumes the Calabas grows, and then the horrible plan can be enacted. Mabu, at this point, has so many scars that she's chosen to wear a veil over her face to help hide them. She's upset that Levant gave away the ring, but she tries to be practical and assure herself that Levant didn't really have a choice in the matter. They needed the Calabas herb to wake up the sleeping villagers, and if that was the only way to get it... It doesn't stop her from feeling low about it, though. But Levant can't stay to give her some measure of comfort. He has to head back into the forest once more. He encounters Totoyamu again, who accuses Levant of cheating him in their prior deal because when he wears the ring, it doesn't shine the way it did when Levant was wearing it. And so he gives it back.
The ring shines only when you wear it.
Totoyamu seems mollified by this, and agrees to trade the belt in exchange for opening the secret way to where the Calabas grows. But due to his promise to Elrim, he can't actually take Levant there, which basically confirms that Jabara was right about the Calabas growing at the base of the Divine Tree. When Levant arrives at the base of the Divine Tree, he finds that it is huge. Like, look at this little guy standing and staring up at this massive massive tree. He barely has time to ponder it though, when a painful light shines forth from Jabara's talisman aimed directly at the tree. When the bright light clears, the sky has turned an ominous red.
Thy mouth is cursed with bitterness. Thy hand is quick to spill blood. Thy path is ruin and misery.
Levant hurries back to Cyrus, where he finds that Jabara sent people to take Garai to the Hall of Judgment. Jabara has Garai literally tied down and staked to the floor, and is questioning why Garai came to Cyrus, what all her great schemes are, what she's planning. Garai calmly replies that she came to Cyrus literally for that very day, to purify the souls of not only the Nagi, but all humanity. Jabara doesn't believe that, and accuses Garai of trying to steal everyone's souls. Oh, what makes her think Garai even has the power to do that? Yeah, well, it turns out that Garai is actually an incarnation of the divine spirit Azura, the goddess of death, and Jabara has suspected it for a long time, and that's why she hated Garai so much. Garai does sort of actually plan to take everyone's souls, but it's because her role is to spin new souls from the old. That's how she plans to purify the souls of humanity, by essentially destroying them and then remaking them. How's that for a plot bombshell? She claims that the chosen ones of light and darkness will transform existence, and that everyone's souls must thus be gathered in order to give the chosen their strength. She leaves her body in a flare of white light that settles over the village, and when it clears, Levant still lives, but it's not exactly clear if anyone else really did. Everyone that lived in Cyrus, asleep or awake, has been frozen in place like a statue. Everyone. Levant's friends, his mother, even Mabu. Oh, wait, not Mabu. In Garai's home, where Mabu performed all of her Nagi magic for Levant, a small ball of light transforms itself into a little sprite version of Mabu, wings and all. She tells Levant that she felt Garai's spirit shoot through her and transform her, but everyone else's souls were gathered up by Garai and taken to the Promised Land where Elrim dwells. Garai spoke to Mabu of Nagi legends that helped her understand that everything, including the Onibubu descending on the village, was all prophetically leading to this, and if Levant wants to learn more, he needs to seek out a Nagi chieftain named Ni. But weakened, Mabu won't be able to stay in her transformed state forever. The spirit of Garai pays a visit to confirm everything that Mabu has said so far, and informs them both that Mabu's soul will eventually be lost like all the others. But until then, she can prolong her life by staying inside a cocoon until the transformation completes, which is some heavy foreshadowing. And so Mabu, beloved wife of Levant, lets herself be placed into a small cocoon so that Levant can keep her safe. But this is the end of their talks, him playing his flute for her performing her magic for him, all of it. Their short marriage has come to this, a bundle of delicate silken threads held close in a pocket. Afterward, Garai's spirit tells Levant that the shine from Mabu's ring when he wears it is what told her that Levant is the chosen one of light, and that he must now seek the chosen one of darkness to fulfill their mutual destinies. That destiny is unclear, at least at the moment, but Garai's wisdom shows that whatever the outcome of their meeting will be, it will shape the world that everyone's souls will be reborn into in the future. So, as always, no pressure. She, like Mabu, tells him to seek out that Nagi chieftain in the temple of Kemuel. And then her spirit fades, and Levant is left alone. So, once more into the forest, this time seeking the temple of Kemuel as per Garai's last words. The temple itself is at the base of a massive boulder that really doesn't look like it should be standing like that, but this is a world where monsters get their essences shoved into cocoons because of music, so some suspension of disbelief, and suspension of gravity, is expected. Just before the temple gate, Mabu speaks to Levant from inside her cocoon, telling him that this place seems familiar somehow, like a memory from a past life, and explains that he needs to hold her cocoon up to the gate to open it. He does, and the gate opens like the wings on the back of a beetle. Inside the middle hall of the temple, Levant encounters the chieftain Ni, who has been preparing for this apocalyptic event for who knows how long. Probably helps that he also seems to be an incarnation of yet another divine spirit. Is anyone in this game not an incarnation of a divine spirit? Anyway, Ni gives this lore-heavy info dump about how the deities of light and darkness have to be guided by the twin dragons of Kemuel, and that when the chosen ones of light and darkness pass through their respective forest gates and meet at last, then the time of gathering will ensure that all the minions of the forest will gain peace, and humanity will gain a new understanding of their role in, well, everything. Again, no pressure. Also, as I said before, Levant is the chosen one of light, something that was signaled by the light from the ring that Mabu gave him. See, the Nagi tribe chose a midwife, Garai, to be Azura's human vessel, who would confirm the birth of the chosen one. Rebirth, actually, because Levant isn't the first to bear that title. The first was actually Prince Menek, all those generations ago in Gehena. Mabu was named the Ray of Hope, which is very similar to what Alkana called Menek. He was her Light of Hope. Also, the offspring of Kikinak and his human wife might have been twins, or were split into two entities that each possessed a piece of light and darkness respectively. Also, Alkana, Prince Menek's lover, was the divine spirit of power, which makes it especially interesting that Elvrim granted her a wish back then. After all, wasn't that situation very similar to what happened with Kikinak, only with the genders flipped? It was a human and a divine spirit falling in love, and that was supposed to still be forbidden. So it's a fascinating twist that Elvrim took pity on her, but not on Kikinak. Also, the chosen one of darkness back in the day? That was Menek's father, King Karis, whose knowledge and greed brought about the destruction of Gehena and set in motion literally everything that's happening now. You see, Jade Cocoon's main overarching theme, aside from don't piss off God, is of cycles. Stories repeating through the ages, souls coming back around to live new lives, prophecies about how the old will give way to the new in almost the same way it once did. But at the same time, it's also about breaking out of old cycles. The last time the Onibubu flew free, a civilization was destroyed because darkness overcame light. Now, the hope is that this time, light can overcome darkness, a happier end to this turn of the wheel. But anyway, back to Levant's depressing adventures with all his reincarnated buddies. So Levant, chosen one of light, has to set out on one final journey to meet the chosen one of darkness. That person has already been here and moved on, and will be waiting for Levant's encounter. Levant first has to experience the ordeal of the 4 jewels. He's already dealt with one, so now he just has to go through the remaining 3. He must pass through more areas of the forest, only a much creepier forest than what he was used to before.
These ordeals lie in the forest far away, beyond space and time.
As for Mabu, she hasn't been forgotten. Ni says that her transformation is almost complete, and she can no longer leave her cocoon at all, and so assigns one of the women at his side to perform Nagi magic and purify minions instead. But if Levant passes his ordeals and defeats the chosen one of darkness, then Mabu can be saved. Well, let's get on with it then. Onward to the Netherworld's forest. After making his way through a twisted yet familiar version of sections of the forest he used to know, Levant encounters a twisted yet familiar person, Chorus. Chorus is proud of Levant for coming so far, but offers him a bit of disturbing philosophy. Cocoon Masters imprison negativity in the form of monsters inside cocoons to help eliminate it from the world. But what if humanity itself is negative and harmful? History is a cycle, and every turn of the wheel, humanity brings negativity back with it. Chorus is consumed by fear of humanity's darkness and challenges Levant to show his strength and banish that fear and doubt. Which he does, because Levant has protagonist powers. And a team of strong monsters. But still, protagonist powers. Chorus, defeated, thanks Levant for dispelling the agent of darkness that cultivated doubt in his heart, but admits that the doubt had been there all along, that fear was part of who he was, and he needs to live with that. Everyone has fears and doubts, but we can't let them overrun us or we'll lose the things that make us who we are. Levant obtains a jewel, and thus the second ordeal has been passed. After making his way through the next section of the Netherworld's forest, Levant finds Kikinak, who taunts Levant about how Kelmar, someone who he thought was a friend but was secretly trying to get with Mabu. Kikinak transforms into Kelmar, who talks about how jealous he is of Levant, how Levant gets to be a hero and save the day and get the girl, while Kelmar just gets to be some nobody blacksmith. He knows that nothing can change what's happening, but that doesn't stop him from being torn up inside with that jealousy. And it's up to Levant to defeat that spirit that keeps the jealousy raging in Kelmar's heart. Afterward, Kelmar admits that he's impressed with Levant's strength, and understands why Mabu loves Levant instead of him. He knows it's wrong to be jealous, but can't deny that it's just a part of him that he has to live with, just as Chorus had to live with his fear. Regardless, Kelmar still considers Levant to be his friend, as that's more important to him than his envy. Levant obtains another jewel, and thus the third ordeal has been passed. Onward to the fourth. Levant's next encounter is not with Totoyamu, but with his wife Kakayamu, who accuses Levant of stealing life from the forest and so stealing life from them. Which, in many ways, is true. Levant went along with Jabara's plan to imprison the Divine Tree. Kakayamu sounds like she's grieving, but inside she's eaten up with anger, and that, like the other negativities Levant has been dealing with, needs to be dispelled. But this time it's not so easy. The dark spirit that inhabited Kakayamu's heart refuses to give up the jewel, claiming that there's so much wrath in the forest that one simple battle can't dispel it all, and then flees the scene. Levant encounters the dark spirit again in the form of Yami, Totoyamu's adorable little sister, and once again must do battle. And once again, the dark spirit flees, making Levant chase after it. Another of the forest men, another battle, another refusal to hand over the jewel. Unsurprisingly, Levant finds Totoyamu standing beneath a netherworld version of the Divine Tree. He says a few angry words before changing his form to that of Mabu, which really hits home for Levant. She tells Levant that she endured so much suffering on his behalf, and where did it get anyone in the end? People are gone, the forest as they knew it has been ruined, and what is Levant even fighting for anyway? He's just some nobody whose only skill is playing the flute half decently. She hates tradition, hates adult women, hates the idea that her fate was to grow up and become just like Levant's mother, pain servant to someone who got all the glory while someone else bore the scars. And when she gets right down to it, she's also afraid that if she was supposed to grow up and be like Levant's mother, then Levant is supposed to grow up and be like his dad. His dad, who went into the forest one day and never came home, leaving his wife and child behind in Cyrus, leaving them to mourn and leaving them without any purpose in life, even a despised one. Mabu's heart is complex and many-layered, and Levant can do nothing at this point to really ease that pain. Still, he must do what he can, and he fights the dark spirit that grew with and within Mabu's heart. The battle is brutal, but Levant prevails. Mabu, having witnessed how hard Levant fought for her, understands now why he feels the need to fight, understands now how he feels, why he fights, and confesses that she was afraid that love was nothing more than a chain that bound two people together whether they wanted it or not, keeping them tethered and confined even when one of the pair buggered off somewhere else. She didn't want to go through that and just end up alone in the end, and so she railed against tradition, against fate, and love even as she surrendered to duty. But now, at the end, she understands love, and Levant, a little bit better. The vision fades and the final jewel appears before Levant, but before he can reach out and take it, the other jewels he's collected begin to shine, floating up to join the final jewel before opening up a portal that reveals, the weird guy that Levant dreamed about before the Onibubu descended on the village. Huh, been a while since we've seen this guy. But now, he is revealed to be the Chosen One of Darkness, the counterpart to Levant being the Chosen One of Light. He says he's impressed with what Levant has accomplished and overcome thus far, and announces that the time of purification is at hand. Soon, man and minion alike will be reshaped into, hopefully, better forms for a better future. However, that future is still in flux. If Levant can defeat the darkness that dwells within man's heart before Mabu fully transforms and emerges from her cocoon, then the future will be one of light. If he cannot, then darkness will prevail until the cycle turns and another opportunity for transmigration presents itself. Levant fights with all his heart, with all of the strength he's gained throughout his ordeals, and emerges victorious. At which point, the Chosen One of Darkness is revealed to be, in fact, Riquette's, Levant's missing father. Riquette doesn't exactly explain why he went missing or how he came to learn his role in prophecy, but he does say that what happened was the only way to solve the mystery of true purification and to serve the needs of balance. Where there's light, there's darkness, and vice versa, and that's how it should be. It's up to the two of them, though, to reunite the powers of light and darkness, which were once long ago separated by Elrum due to its threat. Together, father and son play music together for the first time since Levant was very young, the Symphony of Light and Darkness, the Requiem of Souls. From their music, the twin dragons of Kemuel arise and twine together. Spirits from all over, be they forest minion or reincarnated divine spirits, join in the song and transcend. Their music and the twin dragons free the deities of light and darkness, returning them to the world. And then Mabu emerges from her cocoon, a brilliant fairy that restores light and life to the frozen people of Cyrus, reuniting their souls with their bodies. She regains her old form, allowing her and Levant to be together once more. Garai spoke of transforming souls, not ending the world. Souls fled the bodies, but the bodies remained, waiting for a decisive victory of either light or darkness before those souls were spun into new forms and returned to the flesh, ushering in a new age and new hope for the future. And that's the story of Jade Cocoon. It's a very philosophical and emotional game that is dense with lore and rich world building, and there are a lot of unanswered questions in the lore, but that's generally how myths and legends are. You don't get all the answers, but you get enough for most things to make sense. If you love retro RPGs, then I highly recommend playing this if you have the opportunity. Please let me know if you do, and what you think of the story. Also, if you want to know more about the game and my experiences with it, I'll link to my review of it in the description, so go give that a watch if you have the time. As always, thanks for coming along this narrative journey with me, and I'll see you all again soon with another video. Stay safe and happy gaming.